So here we are. Hi everyone, welcome to my morning of painting. This is going to be a long video. The idea is it's going to be relaxing for you and for me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just share with you some paintings that I'm going to do today in the studio, just hanging out basically. But first of all, I want to just recap something that we did recently. I did a little landscape with some skiing animals on it, and so I'm going to do something of the same kind of same size and same kind of idea, but with a house. And I'm going to make an attempt to paint a sort of American style house rather than an English one on it, because I know a lot of the viewers are American, so I should try and divide myself. So if you want to have a look at this video, that's up on YouTube now already. And another one that's going up soon and will be by the time you see this for sure is my attempt at painting constellation bookmarks with tassels. After having watched the film Don't Look Up, which is probably going to play on my mind for the rest of my life, the idea of the world being destroyed by a comet. Who knows? We've had everything else. We might have a cosmic catastrophe next. Anyway, so this is my comets. And yeah, so the video for that will be up by now. There's a short up already. So you might want to take a look at that. It's a fun thing to do. So today, first thing I suppose I better do is get rid of my sketchbook, put that over there somewhere. And I've got a piece of Bockingford paper. This is Bockingford, £140. It's about 20 by 30 centimetres, not even actually. I don't think it's as big as that. It's about 11 by 7 inches, I think. I prefer inches. 11 by 7.5. I still prefer inches. But if you're in England, 28 by 190. So yes, it was roughly 20 by 30. So when you are doing a landscape, when I'm doing a landscape, when one does landscapes, it's usually best to put in a horizon line. And here comes the teacher in me. Don't put the horizon line across the centre of the page. It tends not to look particularly, I don't know, it's more artistic if you have the horizon either a bit higher or a bit lower. And if you want to put a lot of foreground in, so for example, if you wanted to put these skiing creatures in the front, then you'll probably want a fairly high horizon line. If you wanted to make the most of the distance, so lots of trees in the distance, for example, or something in the distance, or sunset, you might want the horizon line to be a bit lower. So I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to try and draw the house first. And I've noticed that American, well, maybe it's a barn. They tend to have less steeply sloping roofs than ours, and less perhaps overhang here. So, and then a bit taller perhaps. And no, that's not what I want to do. Actually, I've completely changed my mind. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do it this way. And because I've got a rip on there, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do it that way. So just for a change. And I'm going to put the house somewhere up here. And let's try and make the roof, like I said, a little bit less steep than the average English house. Do you know how hard it is to break away from what you've been doing for millions of years, and to break the chain of memory, muscle memory? I'm not sure if I'm going to make this work as an American house, but we can try. Maybe I should put horizontal lines to indicate logs, so it's like a log cabin. And shall we call this a barn? And so if it has a big door on the end there, so that'll give us the option for a bit of darkness there. And I don't know. Is it a house? Is it a barn? Should it have a chimney stack? I don't know. But anyway, here comes the snow. And we'll just bring the snow line down here like that. And then we're going to put some trees along here. This is not going to be, you know, it's not really going to be a work of art. It's going to be a little play. And then I think I might, I don't like putting things right across the front of a drawing because it tends to sort of break it a little bit, sort of stops the eye going in. But what we could have here is we could possibly have a fence just starting here. And because I have this idea, it could be a fence, it could be a gate, a sort of broken down fence, nothing terribly sturdy, perhaps with some snow piled up around it, if we can manage anything that complicated. And then over this side, I think I might put in some plants, some berries and some things like that. So something that's going to be quite striking in terms of the colour. So these will be dark, and then have another stem here, and I think these ones might be red, these sort of roundish, you know, what are they called? Rose hips, that kind of thing. Just like that, and some more of these over here. Something like that. And then here, I think we really need some birds. So let's put a bird here. One bird there, and maybe we'll put another bird up here. This one could be a blackbird. This one could be a robin. And maybe we'll put a bird flying in over here. I might add that later. We might not do that. I see 2 birds there. Well, anyway, so that's step 1. And then what I'll do next is I'm going to paint in the sky behind the house. So first of all, we're going to wet the area behind the house. You could go over where the house is going to be because you're going to paint the house on top, but it's not difficult to paint around that. And then we need some yellow ochre. I think I'll use my Kuretake paints for this because they've got lots of nice colours here. And I'll just pick up some, I think there's a yellow ochre here, isn't there? Yes, yellow ochre is here. Just get a little palette. Yeah, so somebody said the other day, you seem to start all your paintings with yellow. And I often do, especially for the sky, because it gives a bit of a glow. Another thing I often do is turn it round so it's upside down. And then especially for a winter sky, because we're going to use phthalo blue now, Prussian blue, you can call it. Also, I think Prussian blue is quite good for winter skies. And we're going to just drop that in across the top here and let the two blend a little bit. And then maybe a little bit more at the top here. And one thing I have to try to remember when I'm painting is not to go straight from the paint to the paper. Always put it in your palette first and give it a little mix with a little bit of water just to break it up a bit. Otherwise, sometimes you could be surprised at what you end up putting on the paper. So we'll leave that to dry. And I'll put in a few shadows on the snow for the snowiness. Ultramarine for that. Different blue. A softer blue, but still blue. And so we'll just, because you know you can only paint white by painting shadows, can't you, really? Because, well, you can use white gouache, but so putting in some strokes and then softening it below a little bit, and then we'll put a bit more here behind the birds perhaps. Okay, and then down here where we said we would have some snow and there'd be shadows from these posts, wouldn't there? So we just put that there. And now we have to let that dry completely, and then we come back and do the house and the birds and the berries and so on and so forth. So I'm going to put that over here to just dry off. The next thing I wanted to do this morning is I'm going to look at these paints. This is a new set of paints that I've just received. I've been using KURETAKE Starry Colours, this one here, for my golds and silvers. But as you can see, I'm coming to the end. I never used this colour very much. Didn't seem to have much use. But these are getting very worn out, and especially this one, which is my favourite. So and this one's almost gone. That's the silver, but it's not silver. It's white gold, and it never really gave a very intense silver. So I thought next time round I would try the Finetech, the Coliro Finetech ones, which are easily available on Amazon. And I will put links to all of this in the description below. And also, if you want to buy any of the things that I talk about, you can go to my Amazon shop, which is at amazon.com/shop/Diane Antone Studio. And there I've got all of my recommendations all in there, all organised according to brushes, paper, paints, things you might like to have. There's a category for relaxation, there's a category for books, and category for just for fun and stuff like that. So you can have a browse around there if that's any help to you. And I'm sure this is in there already, and I'll double check. So when you get a new set of paints, of course, obviously you want to try them all out. And I haven't tried these out yet. So you're going to be here with me for the trying. And I'm just going to squirt on some water. And we'll leave that then for a minute or two while I talk about the paper I'm going to use. You always need to moisten the paints so that they begin to release themselves a little bit. When you're mixing up your paint before you use it and you're just mixing, a good tip is to not use one of your best brushes, because eventually that will wear down the nice point that you might have had at the beginning. And so use an older brush, one that's not quite so important to you. And then that way you'll save your points. Because if there's one thing that's really, I think, made a big difference for me over the years, it's having a good point to your brush. And a lot of brushes actually, even expensive ones, quite a lot of them, they don't have points. And that's because, in a way, they're not really meant for that kind of painting. So, but if you have a brush with a nice point, like these ones, that's a beautiful point, even on a bigger one. It's still got a really nice point when it's damp. You see that? And that really helps. So, right, that's quite moistened up now, so that should work reasonably well. And I'm going to do something I haven't done for ages, which is I'm going to paint on coloured paper. This is This is called Clairefontaine Paint On Mixed Media paper. It comes in these different colours here. They sent me this sample pack. I don't have any affiliation with them particularly, other than through Amazon. And I haven't used this yet. This is a piece of, obviously, black. And I thought it might be quite nice to try it out with these gold paints. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some Christmas trees. Might need that. This I find is useful. This is called a Spontex sponge. And I usually have one of those handy. They last forever and it works better, I find, than paper towel. Of course, I do have paper towel as well in my trusty IKEA holder. And that's useful if you make a mistake. When you... there's been a bit of a thing going around at the moment about dabbing paint off of paper with paper towel in order to create a certain effect. And yes, you can do that, but remember that that's actually generally used to correct a mistake. So it's not something that you're necessarily going to want to focus on learning. Anyway, so let's try these out, shall we? Let us begin with, this is sort of my warm-up, I suppose. I'm going to do some not very realistic Christmas trees. How does that sound? Now, I don't know whether this is going to paint well or not, but let's see. That seems like a good start. Maybe we'll do a few in that colour, shall we? And do them in rows, I think, or something like rows. Oh, yes. Oh, this is very nice. Let's do another one down here. What shall we do? Well, first impression here is very, very good. I like that. Paints really nicely, even sort of fairly fine lines. And we'll do another one down here, shall we? That's a test, doing little circles. Okay, well, 10 out of 10 to Finetech for their beautiful iridescent colours. Okay, so let's start one here, shall we? How else can I draw a Christmas tree? Let's do the trunk first. There we are. Well, this is good. I'm enjoying this. Let's put the trunk in first. This paper is lovely as well. Right, this one I was using, wasn't it? There must be thousands of different ways of doing Christmas trees. I think I might do another one of these with lines going across. And let's just do a triangle. This is a good, what would you say, imagination stimulating activity, trying to make you think of different things to do. I'm not good at imagining things, as I have said before. And so this is a good test for me to try to think of ways to paint a Christmas tree. There's another one. And put one of those up here, perhaps. Maybe some of them can have little pots. Let's just do one that's kind of floofy. And I might do another silver one over here, perhaps. I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but here we've got a stormy week ahead of us. We're expecting quite a bit of rain and wind. So I'm trying this one at the end here. I don't know what these colours are all called. Let's try this one. Let's do some dots up here, perhaps. Well, I must say I'm very excited by these colours. I think they're going to be absolutely fantastic to use for all sorts of things. Embellishing, and I think you could probably write with it. It seems to be fairly, what's the word? Liquidy, sort of inky almost. I wanted to try this out using, being fairly delicate and finicky with it to see how easily it would be amenable to. Well, I think I've tried that out enough now. What else could we do? Maybe we'll try doing one that's a bit more, Ooh, that's very bright silver. That wasn't the one I had in my brush. I had that one. I guess they probably mix quite fine. Quite fine, what do I mean? Quite easily. There we are. And just one more perhaps. In a second, I'm going to go back to the landscape. So we'll leave that like that. I'll probably finish that off later. And yeah, 10 out of 10 to Fine Tech for gold. Absolutely. Can't argue with that. So, let us see what we're doing here. It might need a bit of a dry, just a second. While I just a quick whoosh with the hair dryer. At this point, I often find I want to just stick the painting down a little bit, keep it under control. So that should work. And then we're going to do some very pale green in the background for behind the trees. So we'll just, I happen to have that phthalo blue. So I've just mixed that with the yellow ochre. And we'll just come over along here and just put in some distant trees. Doesn't need to be anything particular there. Then I like the idea of having a branch coming in from the side. So I'm going to find some brown and then I'm going to grey it down quite a long way. And we'll just paint in here. This is a mixture of burnt sienna and blue. It could be ultramarine or phthalo blue, or both. If you do something like this, just use the point of the brush. Don't forget to make them overlap a little bit to make them look a bit more realistic. And it just kind of frames the picture a little bit more if you've got a few branches coming down from the side. And if you put them in light to start with, then you can always darken them up once you know whether or not you like the way they've arranged themselves. And we can darken them up and make them a bit more snowy later on when, you know. Now this is a nice maroon colour, and I think that might not be a bad colour to paint this barn. So let's smack that in. The first layer. We will want to put some shadow in afterwards, but we just put that in for the first layer. And I think we'll leave the roof white because we're going to pretend that it's covered in snow. So when that's dry, I'll rub out those pencil lines there. And we let that dry for a bit. And I'll do the first layer of the what do you call it? The fence post. I'm not going to do this in brown because brown is the colour I try to minimise. So we'll put a nice blue shadow on that side. And we can also increase the shadow coming down there a little bit. Soften the edges a little bit. Have snow on top, aren't we? We could say these were white fence posts. We've got white fence posts in places here at the front. We've got a white fence. So we'll just make that white and we'll put the snow on afterwards, I think. If we decide we want to put snow on. And then we've got a cross piece here. We'll just put that in and pretend that that's kind of broken or missing or something. There. I can always rub out the pencil marks. I need a drop of water. Now we could indicate a bit of a path if we wanted to. We could have a path coming down here, so we just perhaps indicate some snowbanks. So because there's a path, maybe someone's walking down there. It's always nice to put characters into your painting. At a later date, perhaps we would do that. Let me think, what colour shall I paint the barn door? Is that going to be a dark colour? Maybe this maroon colour, but black added to it, perhaps, to make it darker. Purple, that's not what I wanted. I wanted black. Black. There we are. So, oops. That's when you need the tissue. And you accidentally touch your painting. So there we are. So that's those. We'll see how that comes out when it's dry. We could start on the next layer of trees. I wonder if I need to, maybe I need to let that dry for a bit. I think I'll pop that aside for a minute or two, let that dry, and we'll come back to that in a second or two. Whoops. You can cut there. So I'm thinking maybe we might do a few more bookmarks as well. So let's see. These are always fun, aren't they? Bookmarks. So we're just going to eyeball it a bit and make it about that wide. Whoops. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, about that wide. Raining again. Oh, that one's dead. We need a bit more of that, don't we? Across the top. never quite sure when you start a bookmark whether you're going to trim it right to the inside like that, or whether you're going to leave a white border. I like this washi tape most of the time. When I started this channel, not that very long ago, 2 years ago, I had never heard of it. Never heard of washi tape. How about that? But it's better than masking tape, and it's quite inexpensive as well. So on these ones, I think I'm going to start off by putting a layer of water, first of all. And then we're going to do a snow scene on each of them. So we'll do 4 different skies, I think. See how it goes. I mean, this is all on the, what's the word? Making it up as I'm going along. Nothing planned. I have nothing planned. I don't know what I'm going to do after this. I might do something in my 365 Days of Art book next, perhaps. And so then for the sky, like I said, I think I quite like Prussian blue. So we'll pop in some Prussian blue, but we also want to make it a bit darker. So this is, we've got indigo and blue grey deep. So Prussian, on this set, we've got Prussian blue, indigo and dark blue deep. I think that's right. Blue grey deep, sorry. Blue grey deep, indigo, Prussian blue. I think those 3 colours are pretty good for sky, so we'll try and remember to use those ones. Those 3 there. It's cool the way it all spreads like that. Can always have a bit more water. Leave a few gaps if you want, but I'm going to put some trees down the bottom here, so I don't want to paint all the way down really dark, so we'll just drag that down there a little bit like that. If you want to increase the variation that you've got, you can always drop in a few blobs of just plain water, and that will give you some texture there if you want to do that. This one maybe we'll stop a little bit further up even, maybe. We'll see how that moves. It'll do its own thing. Okay, there's that one. And then I'm going to start with the darkest blue, I think, here. This one's going to, oh my goodness, look at that. And perhaps we'll put a bit of purple in. It's always best, if you can, to let this kind of thing dry naturally. If you can, obviously, you can dry it with a hairdryer, but oops, that one seems to have dried. Okay, well, we use a different technique. Or did I forget to wet it in the first place? I didn't think I did. Okay, well. There we go, and we'll put some more dark blue up here. And maybe a bit of purple. Now we have to put that aside and let that blend. So I can't take that one off of the board. So we'll have to move the board out of the way. I'm going to have to go and find another board. It's a nice fresh board. What I do with these is they're just hardboard, plywood, pieces of plywood from the hardware store, cut into size, and then I just every now and again go over it again, like I do the table as well, with a coat of chalk paint, which does the trick, keeps it reasonably clean and fresh. Okay, so maybe we'll go back to this one. Is that dry? Yes, I think it probably is. So now we want, for the background trees, let us put a layer of, where are my greens? Yeah. These are the greens I had the other day, and I was using cadmium yellow. No, that's yellow. Cadmium yellow. Oh, that'll do. That's yellow. Who cares? A little bit of yellow. I think, yeah, that's cadmium. Hello, cadmium. And then, so, a little bit of green. Let's try and find a test here, because when you're mixing colours, yeah, that's a bit too dark. Yeah, let's do that. So we're just going in with another layer for the trees, which we will then leave to dry. You can get lots of textural variations if you do it like this, and it gives quite a finished effect. I don't know whether you have bars on your ham. I think you probably do. I'm looking for a white. I'm going to put shutters and there we are. I'll come in with the white for the roof in a minute. I don't know if that looks right or not, but that'll have to do. Some kind of balm. Next. What's next? Said plop. Let's come back down here and the robin, we said we would have a robin, didn't we? So let's put in a nice little red breast on the robin. like that. And then he's going to be a little bit realistic. Blue-grey for perhaps a bit more brownish. Yum, 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 yum. Yeah, something like that. First layer, and we'll give him a second layer in a minute when that one's dry. And an eye and all the rest of it. And then maybe we see quite a lot of, I don't know if you get blackbirds where you are. You know, blackbirds, that is to say, not just black birds, but blackbirds. They have a very bright yellow beak. But other than that, the male is completely black. With a very bright eye as well. Just trying to keep that like that. Okay, so there we are. There is that. Shall we do the berries? So mix up some nice bright red. Maybe a little bit on the orangey side, not pinkish, something like that. Perhaps that's the rose hips, usually red. A bit more red on the robin. If you want to lift out a little bit, don't use a piece of tissue. Use a brush to lift out the highlights. Just a little bit like that. You can always try your brush on your tissue. And maybe we'll have some blackish green, purpley, purple. Oh, more purple than that. Can use that dark colour for the ends of the rose hips like that. And then we can either use a brush or could use a fine liner. Sometimes when you put the twigs in, you'll say to yourself, oh, I need another one there, and maybe I need another one there. Okay, and then I think I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush for and I think we need some sort of brownish leaves. So let's find a orange. Let's find a orange colour, something like that. We'll mix it with some green and put in some the idea is here just to indicate some dead leaves. And I might come in with the what do you call it, the fine liner, to do some lines to, you know, just sharpen it up a little bit, because I'm going to do that on the bird anyway. This is a 0.3, you know, it's 0.5, so let's go for a 0.3. And this one here, I'll paint, try to get the beak yellow. And keep the birds kind of whimsical. And okay, so if you want to sharpen up the shapes of your berries, I recommend a fine liner and not too much finickiness. It's the overall impression that counts. And okay, so now we need to come back to the trees in the background. And now I think we're going to need some indigo. I think this is indigo. Yeah. Drop that in and let it run. And just let that blend, and then we are going to put some snow over the whole thing. And I'm going to come back to my branches because now is the time to make them a little bit more noticeable. Don't want to go over them all, just, you know, some of them. You can, if you want, use a sharp stick to put in some branch or stems into the paint. If it's very wet when you scrape in, you'll get a darker line. If it's starting to dry, you'll get a lighter line. I'm not absolutely a fantastically great fan of this technique, but it can be quite effective. You never quite know, really. You never really know how it's going to turn out, so leave it at that. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to let that dry so that the so this will have lightened up a bit, and then we'll put the snow on top. Okie dokie, so and before I go back to the bookmarks, I'm just going to, I hope, about these lines. Sometimes the lines, the pencil lines don't come out if you've painted over them, but they show through. So you have a choice of either you like it or you don't, really. Sometimes you just have to put up with it. All right, that's nearly dry, and if you want to make the paper flatten a bit, you can do it on the other side. Turn it over and I did want to do the beak of the blackbird in yellow. So I just wanted to do it. Let's do him a really, because they do. It's cadmium yellow from KURETAKE. I think they have yellow in their eye as well. So anyway, so that's his beak. Maybe put a few bits of yellow on here to liven that up a little bit, because I've got the paint on my brush. I'm kind of thinking I want a red one too up here. Just put a bit more of that red on there. Okay, and then make him a bit blacker. And then this birdie bird is obviously significantly browner. A robin. A robin. We've got a few robins here, haven't we? Okay, so I'm going to put some snow. I'm not going to use my best brush, so I'll use one of these older, slightly older ones. This is P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I'm not sure what it is actually, whether it's a gouache or an ink, I don't know. But I'm going to put some of this on the roof to cover those lines a bit. And some on the trees. And I'm going to spatter afterwards. This will dry a little bit lighter. Don't know whether I think it's snowing in Canada at the moment. I think I heard on somewhere that they had snow in Calgary. I think so. When we lived there, I remember there were years when it didn't snow until after Christmas, and we used to think, maybe it won't snow this year. Maybe we won't have snow this year. And no, but it always did eventually. But it wasn't entirely unusual for it not to snow till after Christmas. The year we arrived in Canada, which I think was 92, was the coldest winter that they'd had for a long time. And we were, what's the word? Amazed to find that it was actually colder in Calgary that winter than it was at the North Pole. That seemed rather extreme. We were not that, comfortable with that, being as we'd come from southeast England, where snow is measured in millimetres. Not feet. Things like the car freezing as we were driving along. We had a propane car and no one bothered to tell us, the person who sold it to us didn't anyway, that propane cars would freeze in minus 70. We found that out the hard way. I froze to the ground. Our shopping froze in the back of the car. Frozen bananas, not useful. My daughter's hair froze solid when she came out of the swimming pool, the swimming bath, when it was slightly damp. Oh my God, run back inside and dry your hair properly. Oh my God. Flesh freezes in 30 seconds. Make sure you're wearing a toque if you don't want to lose your ears. My husband came in from work looking like Dr. Zhivago after a month in the Russian steppes. Okay, we'll put that aside to dry. Come back to these. Memories of the Snow. And on here, I think, what shall we do? Shall we put the spatter on first? I think I might do something with the gold, actually, and see what happens. Maybe I'll do a gold tree. We are playing. Maybe I shouldn't do that. That I shouldn't do. That is contamination. That's not fair. This is, of course, experimentation, guys. And if you care to take any of my not particularly original ideas and develop them to something better, I would be very happy. Let us try silver here. You can always go over it if you don't like it. And then I think I'm going to put a snowbank here. And then let us take a slightly bigger brush, this one perhaps. And I need to cover over this. And there we are. Don't know what I'm going to make of that when that's dry. May or may not work. Okay, I think I'm just going to pause for a second and I shall be back. So I'm back from lunch and we're going to carry on now with our Christmas tree design, trying out all sorts of different ways. And of course you could do these much bigger. There's nothing to stop you from making them as big as you like. I'm just practicing and trying to and probably failing to stretch my imagination a little bit further. Trying. Okay, I need to put a little bit more water on here because it has dried up since we started with the initiation ceremony. Okay, I've got this one started. Let's put a small one here because we haven't left ourselves very much space. And down here, let's try another one like that. This is the sort I've never actually done this kind of squiggle before for a tree. It's always the first time though, isn't there? And I suppose we could put another one up here. Let's have a stem, not a stem. chunk like that maybe. Went a bit offline here, didn't I? On there like that perhaps. I'm thinking about silver. Let's put another little baby one up here. And maybe the silver gold, or whatever they call it. Platinum, is it? Maybe? I think I could probably fit another row in here too. And let's put a little pot. I'm going to do a skinny one. Any others that need correction? I don't think that'll do. I think maybe put pots on these ones just to bring them down a little bit. You could do some silver and gold stars on there too if you wanted to. I don't know if that would improve the overall effect, but we could. Let's see. Filling in some of the gaps, maybe. Oops. And then maybe we can do some spatter. Let me find my paintbrush. And how about some silver spatter? And maybe some gold. Not quite sure how that's going to dry. It might dry a lot lighter than it looks, but we'll see. So there we are. Somebody suggested, I think, no, I would suggest you could use a design like this for a placemat. You could do a design something like this and then get them printed out or print them out yourself and turn them into table mats for the place setting for Christmas Day, couldn't you? Or you could make wrapping paper like that as well. Could do all sorts of things. It looks quite festive, doesn't it? Okay, so that one can go away for a minute, and now I've got to finish off my bookmarks. Now, I just wanted to do a partial reveal here because I want to see what this looks like. before we go any further. This particular one, oops. So we can cut that one off, I think. Number one. That's not completely... well, I don't know. What do you think? Those paints are really nice and shiny. They really do catch the light. So, looks like there's a bit of a hailstorm of comets there. I think I've got comets on the brain. So we'll put that one over there, and then I'll just put back my tape. So then we can carry on with the next ones. And I think I was thinking, I'll put these paints away for a minute. Find a pencil. There we are. Let us paint a little house in the prairie. So we have some snow like that, and then we put and then chimney, smoke, windows and doors, or door at least. Maybe a log pile beside the house. Little window up there. Okay, and then behind we'll have some trees. Okay, and now we need to paint it. So red, reddish brown. I think that would probably do for the house colour, but we probably want to put, this is cadmium yellow. Some light in the windows, and then we could just pretend that the door is open a crack. Okay, so now we just wait for that to dry before we paint the walls to the house. And we could have our famous bunny. Sitting in the garden there, and maybe Mr. Hedgehog also. Not quite sure what they're waiting for, but while they're waiting, we'll fill them in. Now we need some green. And a slightly bigger brush, not a smaller one. Oops. There's my yellow. There we go. Let's have a nice Christmas tree green, shall we? If you make it nice and dark, the tree, then when you come to put the snow on, it'll show up better. Leave plenty of gaps. And slightly smaller brush again. I paint the house. Get a nice maroon colour, browny red. There's the door. And the roof is going to be sort of light grey, I think. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think I'm going to have the roof. The roof is going to be white because it's going to be covered with snow. That would have been a bad mistake, wouldn't it? The chimney pot, though, can be red because obviously that's going to be warm. So we'll just put a little bit of grey. Oh dear, it's raining. On the roof there. There's some shadow underneath those. And then I think it's time for some pen work first of all. So let's find a very fine pen. I think I need to get a new 0.05. This is a very fine one and they don't last very long. Maybe I can manage with a 0.1. What's that? 0.2. I'll just do the logs in ink, I think. And a little bit of roof showing for character. around the door. There we are. And now we need some snow, don't we? So let's do the snow this time with a toothbrush. So we'll just pick up some of that paint that we put in here earlier. And it's generally speaking a reasonably good idea to just try it out, and also to cover up the ones you're not working on. So that could be a combination of snow and stars. And there we are. Number 2. Another good reason for cutting them off as you go along, just in case you sort of smudge. But on the other hand, you might notice a few details that you wanted to add, so like shadow under the eaves, and maybe you might decide you do want to paint the log pile a bit. And then maybe you do want to put some white on the log pile, and maybe you do actually need to paint the roof, because you remember that it's not actually white because you'd painted the background first. So that's better. And then you think, oh, that's dry now. El Bunny-O needs a bit more colour, and so does El Hedgehog. So that we now need to leave to dry. And the next one, what should we do next? What shall we do next? We could do... What could we do? We could do what we could do. One thing that we could do, we could bring in from the side here a branch. And we could have a bird on here, for example. Perhaps a little robin. And then we could paint him and we could paint the branch in kind of wintry silhouette using just black. Not quite sure where I'm going here, but and then we want some brown. Very strange weather out there at the moment. Hailstorm has passed. And just painting this little robin with gouache rather than ordinary watercolor because I wanted it to go over the blue. Whereas this one down below, he was on a sort of much lighter color, so that can be just watercolor. And I think we're going to need a moon up in the sky here. Let's have a sort of crescent moon, shall we? And now we need to put in the eye and the beak and the legs and the beak, the eye and the legs and the feet. When that's dry, I'll be able to do the line around the outside there. And I think, of course, we still need some snow and stars and things like that. Let's just cover that one up. Lots of snow. And maybe a few dark blue as well. Just find some of this, what's it called? Blue-grey deep. Oh, I need to cover that one. Yeah, so a mixture of blue and grey and white. Not sure about that. Maybe I'll make that round. Okay, so that's that one. And I think I'm going to stop there. We have been painting for quite a while, and I hope you enjoyed that. So we've made, well, actually, I'm not going to stop just yet because, well, there is still one more to do, but I think I'll save that one for later. And we will reveal these. I think I said this before, but when you're peeling off tape, try and remember to pull it off at right angles like that. You're much less likely to tear. I won't say it's an absolute guarantee, but you're much more likely not to tear the paper that you are revealing. And so like that, hold it as near to the table as you can and just pull it at right angles. It's best if you don't leave it on too long after you've finished painting as well, because it tends to adhere. There we are. And let's take this one off for the time being. I'll do that one later. So we have a quick recap here. What have we done today? We have done a little landscape, some bookmarks, and an interesting design using gold from what's it called? Fine Tech. So there we are. Half a day's work. And just bring this down. So thank you everybody for being with me. I hope you enjoyed this long session. We're going to do more of these. Painting in the studio. You can just hang out with me. Nothing stressful, just relaxing. And yeah, so I'll see you again next week, hopefully. So I'll say bye-bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.